This is the SoundBoks. It's extremely loud! Yes, we have 3 of them, but we need more bass. So this is where we build a subwoofer. We did some great raves with it. You just put them up and connect them via SCAR wireless audio. That's all. They are super portable and have a really nice sound. But first, let's elaborate why we need a subwoofer then. There's a mode called Bass Plus mode. Which you can select via the app, and it's pretty decent. But this one has a critical flaw. If you crank up the bass this way, the battery life drops as low as 3 hours. So we need a lot of battery boxes, which is kinda expensive. And even with like 3 hours for 1, 6 to 2, 9, 12, even with 4 battery boxes per SoundBoks, we will get the whole night bass, but you still cannot feel it the right way. Except if you... Yeah, we need a solution. A crazy loud, portable and battery powered subwoofer. I never built a sub for myself, but I have the feeling I can do it. So, let the journey begin. Holy shit, it's done. It's 4 months now, but it's done. So it's possible. Back to you. In the local hardware store I gathered the wood needed, which turns out to be quite expensive. I guess it's because of the global supply shortage. Previously I arranged all the parts on the wood sheets, so they could cut them for me into shape. This saves you so much time if you don't have the right equipment, like I do. While they cut my wood, I visited their light exhibition. Oh yeah. Nice. I'm pretty sure I was a moth in my last life, for sure. After checkout and putting it all in my tiny car. Don't laugh, it did fit though. It was time to drive to the local makerspace and put it all on their shelves.
Schneller.
I pulled out my laptop and searched my Fusion 360 files. So, if you're interested in the planning, the constructions and all the stuff before the build process, let me know down in the comments below. The planning and research phase of this project took about 3 months, so it's a lot of stuff that happens in this time. But also it's a boring part, so maybe you don't want to know. If you want to know, just let me know down in the comments for all the nitty-gritty details. So, before I could start the assembly process, I had to modify the wood a bit and add some angles to 3 pieces of wood. For this I looked in the Buildplan and drew the edges on the wood. After this, a professional from the makerspace cut the wood with an angled table saw. He used a magnetic level box to get the angle of the table saw perfectly aligned. It was very satisfying to watch the saw cut off just the right amount of wood. After I started 3D printing the volume and frequency housing of the knobs, we started measuring the exact dimensions of the gigantic 15-inch subwoofer. Because a circle in this dimension was nowhere to be found, I used a string, marked it and cut it into shape, so I could place a pen inside the loop to draw the perfect round circle for the subwoofer hole. This worked quite well, so while the 3D print was still going, I decided to cut the subwoofer hole. I mounted the wood panel half floating and cut a hole with the drill into it. in which I put the jigsaw blade. I followed the traces on the wood and cut a nice round circle. Then I moved the outer layer to my stack of wood and tried the subwoofer test fit. Then I marked the subwoofer mounting holes onto the wood with a pen and pre-drilled them with a small drill bit. My plan was to use standard wood screws for mounting, but they had just too small and would simply slip through, so I was forced to add some washers and nuts. To at least make it good looking, I decided to cover the washers in black tape and spray paint all the mounting screws black. For this I mounted them onto a sheet of cardboard, sprayed them outside and then let them dry for about half an hour. While the 3D print was still going, I decided to pre-drill the holes in the other wood panels. And I tell you, there were a lot of holes to drill. After this, the 3D print was also finished. Time to mount the subwoofer to the wood. For this I screwed the wood screws with the washers into the subwoofer mounting holes on top of the wood. This yielded a very nice and tight fit of the subwoofer speaker cone on top of the wood. Time for the electronics. Next I soldered the XLR and 6.35mm combo jack to the amplifier. According to this schematic. Yes. While the combo jack is soldered directly to the connection wire, the amp is just plugged in. Next I double checked my insane LiPo battery and wired it all up. I used the screw terminals in the amp to connect it with the speaker and just clamped the power to it. I used my phone as a source with an USB-C to aux adapter, which was directly wired into the source port of the amp. But the most important question, will it bump? Okay, nice. Yes. It did bump. I have to admit it was pretty impressive to watch, but the sound was a bit flat, to say the least. So, time to continue the build. After the successful test I laid out the backplate component and marked cutting holes into it. I used the special wood bit to cut out the XLR port and then I continued with my drill a hole and put the jigsaw blade in it to finish technique to cut out all the holes. As the backplate is now ready, it was time for the assembly of the box. To make the assembly easier, I marked and numbered all the parts. I did not pre-drill the holes, which yielded these nice screaming wood sounds and made things way more complicated. But I was in a hurry. Yeah, this should never be an excuse. This is what you get if you use excuses all the time. Under full body use, I drilled down all the screws. For this I used 4x40 plywood screws. At least I pre-drilled the holes for the inner connections this time around and secured them also with the same screws. After this I drilled the holes for the speaker wires and secured them with rubber cable savers and yeah, duct tape.
Oh god.
And then I sealed the hole with hot glue. After this I thought it would be a good idea to seal the inside of the subwoofer with hot glue.
Stop it. Get some help.
Well, don't ever seal your sub with hot glue, please. Use normal wood glue. While I was at it, I also added hot glue to the subwoofer mounting holes because it was not airtight. This is an okayish, cheap and easy use case for hot glue, but I think there are better ways. Let me know in the comments. Short disclaimer, if you screw in and out a metal screw into wood, it gets really hot. And I mean really hot. Finger burning hot.
Oh mein Gott, ist die heiß!
After my fingers are cooled down and the screws are all inserted, for safety reasons I added a fuse, a voltage and an amp meter, so I could read the power draw in real time. For all the internal connections I used XT60 connectors because they are strong and reliable, and I use them all the time with my quadcopters. They are pretty easily soldered and can withstand currents up to 60 amps. I also recommend adding heat rings. This makes the overall look way cleaner and also a little bit safer. I placed the electronics on top of it and gave it a quick test run.
Magic Smoke. Come in.
Ich hab Angst.
Well, after the horrible test, I decided to tear down the whole assembly and remove the hot glue and use proper wood glue. Again, never use hot glue as a seal. This time I also pre-drilled more holes, then I used lots of wood glue to make every connection airtight. I also laser cut internal support structures, which I did not use in the end. After the assembly was done, the second time, this time right, I decided to go fancy and hide all the screws with a mixture of wood chips and wood glue, which is applied to all the screw terminals sunken into the wood, to hide them after painting. After the mixture was dried, I sanded it down. How well did that work? Well, I let you be the judge.
Hello guys, this sounds awesome in here. You can hear the reverb and the echo, and this is all because it's all to improve the sound quality and also the sound pressure level of the speaker. Pretty awesome, huh?
Wie viel ist denn das gerade?
Ist gut, ich glaube 10% oder so.
Ja, mach das mal ab.
Then I mixed water with my wood paint to make a first layer and better contact with the paint and the wood. After the first layer was dried, I used the concentrated paint to give the subwoofer a second paint job. I used Tough Cap structure paint, which has a nice reflective structured finish. Then I screwed in the metal handles with big black short screws. After this I inserted the power bottom, the XLR terminal, the volume and frequency regulators and the power measurement displays. Then I wired it all up internally and measured where the amplifier can go. The amp was also anti-shock mounted with screws and hot glue. I drilled the holes for the screw approximately 2 mm deep and used some wood glue to attach the amp to the case. And then I realized that my connection cable from the preamp to the amp was too short.
Fuck!
Which is why I had to drill 6 holes again, put glue in them and set it up properly this time around. With this sorted out, I proceeded to also anti-shock mount the battery with a foam insert beneath it. Whoops! I forgot to add a charging terminal for the battery. So, quick fix and we're done. So, how can I mount the battery? I have these big screws. They would clamp down the battery very strongly. Yeah, but never, even in your dreams, puncture a LiPo battery cell. It will explode. So handle them with care, please. Okay, but how do I mount it softly without harming it? I need some sort of ribbon cable, which is flexible but also strong. What could I use? Oh, would you look at that? I guess I can use my belt. These things are so versatile. Ah, childhood memories. So naturally I cut my belt into 2 pieces and screwed them down with 2 screws at first, and then I added 2 more screws at each side to increase the mounting pressure. This whole process was repeated for the second piece of the belt. I conducted a small tilt test to verify that the battery is properly mounted and will not slip around. After this I added small 3D printed flexible rubber feet, which looked pretty awesome in red, but they were far too fragile in the end. So please use stiff ones with a metal plate inside. After I screwed down the top center, it was finally done. Moment of truth! Stay with me. If it explodes, you'll see it here first. Good, good, good. Okay. This is all I can do now because my neighbors are killing me. It's so loud. Oh my gosh, I have to test it. Alright guys, see you in the next one. What a ride. So, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments down below. And if you want to see all the planning, calculations and alternatives I went through, let me also know. I can probably make a whole other video about the enormous amount of research and planning that went into this project. Lastly, if you know anyone near Frankfurt, Germany, which has a testing setup for a loudspeaker, please tell me. I want to get this thing measured properly. For me it sounds awesome, but I want the numbers. So, I hope you enjoyed the ride. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.